Tonight is about what we are not, the negative. I know the tendency for a lot of us, especially when we come to church, is to be positive. We want to hear an uplifting message. We want to hear upbeat music. We want to get something from the service that will help us in our lives. Nothing wrong with that, until there is. If all we do is add, then eventually things will go wrong. If you keep building a tower higher and higher into the sky, you will find a tipping point and it'll all come crashing down. If all we ever do is keep growing by taking on more, by doing more, by amassing more, by always trying to be more, eventually we will crumble under the weight of all that we have added. If we keep adding lights, we'll eventually blind ourselves. Tonight is not as much about what we should add, but what we should be taking away. Not about what we are as much as it is about what we are not. We have a season for bringing more lights in, but tonight is the night where we douse them. In the dark, once our eyes adjust, we will see better, even if we don't like what we see. And we need to see truly. We need to know what we are not. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where do you want us to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal.
Matthew 26, 20 through 25. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." And they became greatly distressed and began to say to him one after another, "Surely not I, Lord." He answered, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that one whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born." Judas, who betrayed him, said, "Surely not I, Rabbi." He replied, "You have said so."
It's so easy to look down on Judas. He's the betrayer. He's the worst. Can't believe he would do that. And then he has the gall to say, surely not I. What a piece of work. Although if we're going to be fair about this, we ought to remember Peter's denial not too long after this. And while we're mentioning things, we ought to at least mention all the rest of them abandoning Jesus and running for the hills when the cops show up. Betrayer, denier, deserters, surely not I. They might end up doing those things, but they wouldn't put it quite that way, right? We weren't abandoning you, Jesus. We were just being safe. I wasn't denying you, Jesus. I was just trying to buy time. I'm not betraying you, Jesus. I'm your disciple, not some betrayer. I'm one of the good ones. Look down on Judas and the others all you want. We can label ourselves whatever we would like. We can posture and justify until all the lights go out. But when they do go out, I hope you'll have the courage to see the truth. We do plenty of betraying. People right now are doing blatant evil, violence, war, hate, terror, oppression. And what are we doing? Being safe? Buying time? Trying to tweet and post to make sure others see us as one of the good ones? Betrayer, denier, deserters, surely not I. Sure. Whatever you want to tell yourself.
Matthew 26, 36 through 42. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there to pray." He took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even unto death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little further, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "So could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again, he went away for the second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done."
It's the most haunting scene from the whole story. Jesus pleading with God to let this cup pass from him. We know we're not talking about a literal cup, right? It's not Dr. Pepper in there or anything like that. We're talking about a cup of what he has to face. And this cup is a bitter one, a painful one, a cruel cup. And Jesus doesn't want it. And yet he says, "Not what I want, but what you want." And that's the key. And that's what makes Jesus different than us. Because we all experience the first part. We all have things we'd like to pass on, right? Hardships and pain, struggle and frustration, losing a job, a relationship, a partner, a parent, a child. Standing up for what is right in a world gone completely mad. Refusing to put ourselves to sleep to the horrors all around us. Insisting on waiting and watching with someone in their dark night. These are hard things. And I'm sure most days we would like to pass on them. We know what it feels like to ask God to pass this cup from us. But not all of us have the wisdom and the courage to say, "Not what I want, but what you want, God." No, we have a much easier solution than submitting to God's will. We convince ourselves that God's will is our will. God just so happens to want what we happen to want. God wants us to take care of ourselves. God wants us to be safe and successful. We don't have to anguish in prayer and doubt and dread. We can rest easy, knowing that God wants what we want.
Matthew 26, verses 47 through 56. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him." At once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen this way?" At that hour, Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
There it is. They all desert him. But only after Jesus gives them one last lecture. This is his last teaching with his disciples before he's then hanging on a cross. The last teaching is about swords. Put your sword up. If you're going to insist on living by the sword, then you're going to die by the sword. Just a bit of a reminder here, but a minute ago we were talking about how passing the cup wasn't about a literal cup. You remember that? It's true of swords too. Is it literally about a sword in this instance? Sure. Is it also about guns and bombs and armies and drones and hacks and monitoring and taking everything you want by force? What do you think? I think we were warned about the follies of the sword thousands of years ago in a garden that even this night is still in earshot of the sounds of violence. Are we ever going to put up our swords? Or will we be more like these disciples? If Jesus won't let us take what we want, if he won't let us fight others to eliminate all threats, if he won't let us solve our problems with force and dominance, then we're out of here. They all leave Jesus, but only after he tells them that his way is not to live by the sword.
Those who arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you're talking about." When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again, he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, the bystanders kept coming up and said to Peter, "Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment, the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly.
Peter is trying not to give up his identity in the belly of the beast here, which is far from the image of the bullheaded, bumbling caricature we usually make of poor Peter. He's thinking here, at least, a little espionage, a little blending in, a little flying under the old radar. He's bad at it, but at least he's trying, right? Here's the thing, though. He'll never be pure enough for this crowd. He's given away by his accent, but it could have been anything, because that's the truth of the purity crowd. They will always be able to find something to cut you out over. When they get done with the lepers, it will be the Samaritans. And then when they're done with the Samaritans, it'll be the Galileans. It'll be the fish smell. Or it'll be the tax collector friend, or the fact that you would dare to disciple women. It would always be something. They will find something. We are tempted to believe that we could somehow appease the powers that be, that we could be whatever enough to pass. We can be good enough. We can be pure enough, masculine enough, or feminine enough, or whatever enough. But the test before Peter was not trying to fit in to game the system. The test was being faithful to Jesus Christ. And that's our test, too. Do we try to be like Jesus, or are we trying to convince everyone that we have never heard of him? When the rooster starts hollering, I hope we find ourselves more faithful than poor old Peter.
When the morning came, all the chief priests and elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him and led him away and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they have made against you?" But he gave them no answer, not even a single charge. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone that they wanted. At the time, they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you? Jesus Barabbas, or Jesus who is called the Messiah?" Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, "Which of these two you want me to release to you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying to them, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves."
Pilate may be the first person to ever require a clique to agree to the terms of service, the darkest terms of service. It's not a prenuptial agreement, it's a pre-homicidal agreement. Pilate is the patron saint of covering your backside, shall we say? This one is not my fault. Of course, that's exactly what is Pilate's fault. His insistence on not being responsible for the execution of an innocent man is his fault, because he could have done something. He could have refused this obvious setup. Sure, it might have caused a riot, but that won't last long when you have the backing of the entire Roman war machine. He would pay a price in some way, obviously. We all have to face the consequences of our choices. Pilate's trying not to do that, but that just doesn't work. Listen, I know what we've been doing tonight, okay? I know that we talk about these stories with Judas and with Peter and with Pilate, and then we say to ourselves, I'm not like that. I have my faults, but I'm not like them. And maybe you can convince yourself of that with Judas or even Peter, but you can't do that with Pilate. You're not a Roman governor as far as I know, sure, but you wash your hands. We all try to cover our backsides and to not be the one holding the bag when trouble shows up. We all want to escape the consequences of our choices. We all want to let all the darkness of the world be someone else's fault, but never my fault. But let's tell the truth. You could do something. You could hound your representatives and demand that senseless violence stops occurring in American streets. You could stop giving your dollars to companies that systematically underpay their workers. You could vote another way. You could give to a different cause. You could spend your time and energy doing something to stop the march of darkness. But do you? Do any of us? Or do we try to convince ourselves that it's not my fault? I'm not the one doing it. Would you say that Pilate is innocent?
Choir will sing the first 3 cycles, and then I'll turn to you after we've sung the 4th one, and you'll join us on the Shadows refrain.
Matthew 27, verses 26 to 45. So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now if he wants to. For he said, 'I am God's son.'" The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m.
To me, the most damning part of the whole story is one verse buried in here. The soldiers are mocking and cruel, but I don't expect them to be anything else. They are professional warriors, not grief counselors. The chief priests, the elders, the scribes, they're all power players who orchestrated this exact outcome. Of course they're gloating. What do you expect of a powerful person when they get everything they want? The bandits hanging on crosses. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if they had some compassion, like one does in one of the other gospel reports. But honestly, them being mocking and cruel is just as likely. You can always count on people, no matter how low they are, in trying to make someone else feel even lower. No, the bit that is most damning is verse 39. Those who pass by deriding him, shaking their heads, and then they hurl insults. That's the part. I expect it from the rest of them, but the crowd? They were all out welcoming him with palms just a few days ago. They were all looking for miracles and signs. They were all showing up for his sermons and the rest of his teachings. They were all big fans of Jesus and John the Baptist who came before him. So much so that these same leaders were too afraid to make any moves because the people loved them that much. But now it's Friday. The winds have changed. And now the crowd is acting like they were always against Jesus. Now that the fad is passing, now that it might cost something, now it's too much of a price to pay, they jump ship faster than you can say bilge rat. They're out of here. What happens when kindness is seen as weakness? What are we to do in a world where empathy is made out to be wrong, and kindness is weakness, and humility is a character flaw? What will we do when hate and violence are the roads that we are told and ordered to walk on? When our participation in the dark pageant of domination and oppression is mandatory? Pretty words aside, if following Jesus, and I mean really following his teachings, if that becomes counter to the way of the average person, what then will we do? Will we remain faithful, or will you just join the crowd? About 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks were split. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and he asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. Then he rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away. Can you see now? Can you see what we are not? We are not as innocent as we like to believe. We are not very good at seeing what God wants from us, especially when it's not what we already wanted. We are not the kind who stick around when things get hard or when we don't get to pop off. We are not willing to stand out when it means something, and we're not really good at taking responsibility for our part of the problems in this world. We are not brave. We're content to just play as a part of the crowd, to go along. Now that the lights come down and there's plenty of darkness to hide in, do you want to be real for a minute? You want to take off that mask now that no one can see the real you? What's real is that we are not the heroes of this story. We are not courageous enough to stand against the forces of evil, and so we go along with them. We are not wise enough to keep from answering violence with more violence, and so we cut others down. We are not in positions of power, so we convince ourselves that we have no responsibility to those who find themselves in harm's way. In the dark here, you can be honest with yourself. You know who you are. You don't want to be the kind who did this, but you are. Not by doing anything, really. You have allowed all of this to happen. If one person had done something, maybe the story wouldn't end in a graveyard, but here we are, in the dark. Dark as a tomb. We know how we got here. You're here because of what you're not.